In this world of ours, it takes little to earn your living, but much to earn respect. It takes little to kill someone, but much to build an empire that will be remembered long after your death. But perhaps the most elusive is to do both, to rise above others through blood and fire while building something that will stand the test of time. Of all the families that tried and succeeded, only one stands above the rest, Family Forelli. Welcome to Mafia, a throne drenched in blood. Today we're going to look at the house built by fear and lost by pride. We are looking at the rise and fall of Don Salieri and his children. If there's one thing people say about 1920s America, it's how wild it was. Flappers danced with abandon. People drove their brand new Fords like their lives depended on it, which technically they did, and gangsters ruled the underworld. At the height of this chaos reigned Salieri, head of the very powerful Forelli family, and undisputed boss of the American Mafia. His empire stretched from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. He had made more money than he could ever spend in a lifetime. And he had enemies, many enemies, men who wanted what he had and weren't afraid to use extreme measures to get it. Yet Salieri was never worried. He knew that no matter what happened, his family would always survive. Why? Because he had carefully laid down contingency plans for such eventualities. He had created a system so airtight that even if he were to go down, it would continue to function. His plan was called the Commission, an elite council of 6 made up of him and the heads of 5 other families who were closest to him. Together, they would govern the entire Mafia. In theory, they would meet to discuss matters that affected the whole organization, stuff like territorial disputes or going to war with the government. But when Salieri died, all bets were off. See, he didn't just die a natural death. He was betrayed by his own brother, who killed him with the help of 2 of the 3 men who made up the other half of the Commission. With Salieri dead, the Commission was now controlled by his killer brother and 2 of his allies, who together were able to rewrite the rules of the Commission, excluding Salieri's sons from the ruling body, declaring them enemies of the state and seizing everything they owned, leaving them penniless. Fortunately for them, Salieri had foreseen this possibility and had set aside enough money for each of his sons to start a modest business and live comfortably, and so although they lost their fortune, they were still pretty well off. Now there were 3 brothers, Michael, Victor, and Joseph, who, despite their father's wishes, vowed revenge against their treacherous uncle and the rest of the Commission. Each took their own path, though. Victor, the eldest, kept a low profile, staying out of sight as he saved every penny, reinvesting it until he had enough to start his own crew. Meanwhile, Joseph found his way into the ranks of the police, becoming a rising star in the New York Police Department. Only Michael went straight to the source, confronting his uncle, only to be beaten senseless and thrown into the river. Luckily, he was saved by a prostitute, who turned out to be more than just a hooker. She was the widow of a rival mobster who was killed by Salieri years ago. She took Michael in, caring for him until he was ready to get back in the game. Then came the offer that changed everything. See, there was a war brewing between the U.S. government and the Mafia. The feds were cracking down hard, arresting hundreds of gangsters and putting them away for good. Many families were being torn apart as the rats fled the sinking ship. Yet in the middle of this chaos stood the Chinese Triads, an ancient criminal organization that had been lying low for decades. Suddenly they began to move, seizing territory left and right, killing anyone who tried to stop them. They were led by a mysterious man known only as the Dragon. He had risen to power after defeating the previous leader in a battle that left dozens dead. The Dragon's ambition did not stop at just ruling Chinatown. No, he wanted all of New York. To do that, he needed muscle. Lots of muscle. And so he offered Michael a deal. In exchange for his help in taking out the remaining gangs in Harlem and Little Italy, he would make Michael the official crime boss of New York, giving him control of all the triads in the city. Needless to say, Michael accepted, and together they went to war, taking out gang leaders, bribing cops, and killing anyone who got in their way. You may be thinking that Michael is the protagonist. So why are we talking about how great the Dragon was? Well, because he was, as they say, the greatest of all time. Although the Dragon's strength should not be understated, neither should his weakness. See, he was a creature of habit. Every night before retiring, he would visit the same nightclub, taking the same route, driving the same car, always with 2 of his top men flanking him. It was almost as if he craved the spotlight, which he did. In fact, he basked in it every night. And and then he met his demise in a hail of bullets outside that very club. Michael had finally avenged his father and his family by selling out the Dragon to the FBI in exchange for immunity and a hefty reward. But his problems were far from over. Even though he had become the most powerful gangster in New York, the other members of the commission hated him for betraying the Dragon and for embarrassing them by kneeling before the cops. They wanted him gone. So the question is, what does Michael do? How can he stay alive and keep what he has? First, he did the only thing he could think of, run. He left New York, starting a new life in Las Vegas, where he became friends with a local casino owner. That guy was the legendary Bugsy Siegel, one of the most notorious gangsters of all time. Together, they expanded Michael's casino, turning it into the biggest and best in town. It had everything: gambling, prostitution, drugs, and a theater that hosted the biggest acts in the country. In no time at all, Michael was raking in millions. But the good times didn't last forever. Soon, word got around that Michael was in Vegas. The commission sent men to kill him, but he always seemed to be one step ahead, thwarting their attempts.
Oh.
That is, until one day when he got careless. As he entered his office, he was confronted by a hitman sent by the commission. It didn't matter that Michael was armed. This guy was trained to kill. In seconds, they were in a shootout. Now, we won't spoil the ending for you, but let's just say that Michael paid the ultimate price for his hubris. So what did he leave behind? Well, as it turns out, he left behind a legacy. You see, even though his death was tragic, his story inspired those around him. After hearing about the events in Vegas, Victor decided to join forces with his youngest brother, Joseph, who had just become police captain. Together, they sought out the remaining members of the commission, bringing them to justice one by one. As for Michael's illegitimate son, well, he grew up idolizing his father, learning the family business from the ground up. He worked his way up from being a lowly soldier to becoming a capo, earning the respect of his peers and the fear of his enemies. But alas, that too ended in tragedy, as he was betrayed by one of his own men and sent to prison for a crime he did not commit. So now the question is there hope for the next generation? Will any of them be able to carry on the family name and restore it to its former glory? Or is the family business doomed to fail? Well, that's up to you to decide. Play Mafia 3, the game that started it all, and experience the thrill of being a mobster for yourself. You can play as Michael, Victor, or Joseph and choose their fate. You can also play as their children and lead them to victory against the commission. Thank you for watching this video.